Hello, and welcome back to the Corhazi Outlook, a Grand Archive TCG podcast centered around tournament results and competitive metagame analysis.
We're here to provide a glimpse into what's being played at larger tournaments and help you prepare for your next big event. This is episode 24. I am Ken, also known as Chromatic. With me, as always, is Aubrey, also known as Jim, the Eternal.
How's it going?
And today, as promised, we're talking about Ascent Manila.
Oh, I'm so excited.
The very first of the PTM season.
Yeah. The first event of the season.
Yeah, we've been really wanting to see how this would shape up. We had a really good time in the DTR season, and we are really hoping to see an evolution of that, but also we really want to see where things go. We have some new directions that we can take things in. We have some new champions that people are really excited about, and we kind of want to see how it all pans out.
Yeah, and just in general, like a season starting is always kind of like a blank slate, like a fresh covering of snow, untarnished, ready for anybody to just stomp all over. So I really appreciate having the ability to come into a new season, try something new, see if it works, and feel like I'm trying new stuff around other people that are also trying new stuff.
Yeah,
that's always really exciting.
It's kind of liberating in a way because, there's a lot of stuff that you may not have prepared for and a lot of things that you honestly just can't prepare for. So it's just like, hey, do something new, do something fresh, have some fun with it.
Yeah, go into it, see what you can do.
Yeah. So we're going to see what people cooked over this past event, and maybe you'll have something new to try. Before we get into that, though, hey, Jim.
Hey!
What's going on? What are you doing?
So I'm actually prepping for Store Champs coming up in
Me too.
In 3 days, 4 days? Soon?
Fancy you should mention that. Yeah,
right?
It's coming, it's creeping up.
So there's some real questions about what I'm gonna play. I think I could probably be better served by putting a little more effort into this one. But I've picked a deck that I'm mostly comfortable with.
Yeah.
And maybe requires a little bit of fine-tuning. And I suspect it's not perfectly positioned in the metagame. But it's a deck that I know how to play, and that's the most important part.
I think that's, as we've learned, familiarity with the deck tends to supersede the exact meta placement wherever it may lie. And honestly, since we really don't know where the meta placement's going to go just yet, it's fine. Pick something familiar.
Yeah.
I am in the same boat. I am kind of sticking with something closer to home with what I know. And I've learned a few new tricks with a few new cards from the season. And I'm kind of looking forward to just seeing where that goes. I'm kind of locking in for the first Store Champs a little bit. I don't have as much time as I would like to prepare,
Sure.
I think. But I will just give it a go, see what happens. And if it works out, great. If not, we've got plenty of other stuff to try.
Yeah, I mean, it is literally the first big event of the season. So this is, big. The first local event.
The first local event, which I'm not used to having them this early in the season.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I feel like everyone's kind of in the boat of what's new and fresh. So I'm sure we'll see some crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice to get some results from other events first, so we have stuff to take a look at.
Yeah.
Which I guess we should jump into that.
Yeah. So our expectations going into Ascent Manila were that it was going to be very hard to have expectations for.
Yeah.
We did have one major event prior to this, which was the online Fayble Regional on December 20th. And we saw a few things there that were new, but for the most part, it's kind of the greatest hits of last season of DTR. So we had a couple new decks. We had a Fire Aggro Merlin, which was using most of the pieces that you would see in a Fire Aggro Assassin build with a couple of new Merlin coded cards.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of these same tricks in Fiza, in Fire Tristan.
Yep.
Very, very similar ethos.
Yeah.
And then the big thing is Molten Echo, right?
Yeah, Molten Echo is a big one. It's a great card that you can do a little bit of damage, get some sheen, ephemerate it for a little bit of damage, which on your Poison Dagger turn is really, really nice. It's a fast action spell. We also have Tweedledum, who turns out is a pretty good beater in that Assassin deck. So, and then you just have a lot of other good tools that Assassins love, or that aggro decks in general love.
Yeah, Tweedledum is actually really interesting because a lot of the complaints were like, oh, you can't control who you attack with it. You can't necessarily get damage into it.
Yeah.
But like this deck is also pretty decently suited to take out the opposing allies anyway.
Yeah.
So if your opponent only has one choice for who to attack.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it a lot easier. So that deck has been popping off pretty hard. Which was pretty cool to see. We also had a Fire Aggro Aetherwing Diana, which isn't necessarily a new deck, but it got some pretty good gas with a new card.
Yeah, the new toys that this deck got is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And it also looks like it's actually making it a bit more competitive, which I think is the neat thing here. The deck was kind of maybe 1.5 tier, maybe second tier before.
Yeah.
And it seems like this is giving it a little bit more punch.
Yeah, it turns out, I mean, it's still a tough deck if you run into any sort of interaction, but like the amount of threat that it can push out now has just gone so far up the hill. You have the new Ignition draw, which is a really great way to filter for damage dealing cards, which you then get to banish and then play later on your turn, which means that you can potentially go plus with stuff like Etheric Calibration or Prudent Knock. That's really good. Then you have Burning Ether Charge, which is a Kindle Ether Charge, which I don't think we need to explain why that's good. It's a lot of damage. A lot of good damage.
Yeah, it fills a lot of the same roles as Ashman Shot while still giving you even more benefit. So, like, with the power of Kindle is really strong here.
Yeah.
And just being able to play it for free, especially if you play it off of an Ignition draw, like, that's so strong.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. So that's gotten a lot of nice tools. But otherwise, besides those two decks, a lot of the decks that we saw last season, we're also seeing this season with a few new toys. Which is pretty cool. And we'll get into those new toys a little bit as we talk about the main event. But a couple things to note is in the top 16 of the Fayble Regional, there was no dragon.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting, right? We see the Oblation deck, we see CL, we see Arasana over here, there's a little bit of Wake Up, there's a little bit of Shadow Strike, there's a little bit of almost everything with the exception of Seiryu.
Yeah, right? And Seiryu is obviously a very popular, very powerful deck, so it was kind of a surprise to see that not making an appearance here. We had a lot of fire decks, in fact, actually making this sort of top 16 area. I think we had 9 of the decks that are in fire. The majority of them, of the other ones being wind, so that's sort of the major thing. But of course, this event was won by the one water deck, which was Dennis Yao piloting Water Aetherwing Diana, the Carp Song package.
Right.
Which is still the best and brightest water deck in the format.
Yeah. So this looked a lot like the previous format.
Yep.
We had a few more aggressive decks showing up, which is, the kind of thing that you expect going into a new format.
Early meta, aggro good.
But overall, we're not seeing any particular new sauce here.
Right.
And we're mostly seeing a little bit of tune-up on the old stuff. I would say the biggest surprise here, aside from the lack of Seiryu, is maybe a little bit of over-representation for CL.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people saw the new Foe Awakening card, and they were like, you can't respond to this. That's busted. Yeah. That's insane. And a lot of folks were hyping it up, and admittedly, it is a really good source of unpreventable damage if you can set it up right. So we had 3 Oblation CLs in this top 16.
Yeah, so definitely some overrepresentation for CL compared to what we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's a lot of, hard to say what people expected, but not a lot of change from the previous meta.
Right. A lot of the same archetypes are here.
Yeah. So this is kind of the stage going into Ascent Manila.
Right.
And at this point, let's talk about Ascent Manila.
Yeah. So we had 276 entrants, which is not as big as some of the previous events, but when we started this podcast, that is well over what the biggest Ascent at the time was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's really great to see the event growing at a healthy rate.
And as far as the numbers go for elements, we have kind of, I think last meta we saw, a lot of initial fire at the beginning of the meta. And then close to the end of the meta, it had more evened out, right? There was a lot more wind that was showing up. And here we now have an early meta, lots of fire.
Yes.
Tons of fire. 141 fire decks, 51% of the field.
It would be a shame if this was not the case, honestly. This is the time for fire to shine.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Get the aggressive decks, get the decks that present your opponents with problems, which is what fire has always been good at.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we also have some wind representation still.
Yeah.
And water, unfortunately, taking kind of a backseat.
Yeah.
As expected?
Kind of as expected. I think the previous season, water kind of fell to the wayside outside of the one obvious deck. So it kind of makes sense here. But interestingly, we have 6 norm decks, which are no longer just slime decks, with the new Spirit of Purity suddenly making its debut.
Yeah, and to return to the point about water, I think it's actually expected that we're at this point, right?
Yeah.
So, first off, the previous meta, not a lot of water.
Right.
New meta, fire aggressive decks are going to be sort of the thing to go to. Probably not going to be a lot of water because water is built to respond to things.
Yeah.
And you kind of need to know what's out there in order to be able to respond to it appropriately.
It's true.
So without a breakout deck like something like Fractals, right?
Yeah.
Which everybody was like, oh, I'm going to play the water combo deck.
Yeah.
We're kind of not expecting a lot of water presence.
Yeah,
here.
I mean, it's really telling that the one water deck that is performing well, not just at this event, but in the previous season, was basically blue fire aggro, as a lot of folks that I've been talking to call it. Which is not a bad thing at all. I love me some blue stuff. I love me some fire, and I love me some aggro. So to have it all together is great.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so that's the element breakdown.
Yeah. In terms of overall archetypes, we had the most popular deck being Umbra Guardian at a whopping 40 decks.
Yep. So this is split between different types of Umbra Guardian.
Yes.
I personally am a huge fan of splitting hairs, so we're going to split some hairs here.
Let's split them.
I do want to keep in mind that not everybody is going to look at something like the coup version of the oblation of the CL deck versus the oblation version of the CL deck and think that they're different.
It's true.
Right? There's like maybe 8, 12 cards difference between them, and it's mostly how the top end works because it's built in the same shell for the most part.
True, very true.
So I am going to kind of call out the differences here.
Yep.
But they're not necessarily that much different.
They are and they aren't, because I feel like the decks are composed in very similar ways, minus the 8 to 12 that you mentioned, but also like that it has such an impact on the playstyle of the deck.
Yeah, that's true. Kind of their goal is completely different, right? You have Oblation trying to deal massive spell damage.
Yeah.
You have the coup version of the deck trying to build up a bunch of omens and then get some value out of attacking and then build into kind of a bigger attack if the opportunity presents itself. There's also the more controlling version of the CL deck that admittedly we haven't seen as much recently.
That one will probably take a while to reappear, I think, just
yeah.
because it requires a lot of knowledge of the existing environment, and I think right now everything's in flux.
Right.
But we also still have some other folks trying competitive stuff with water and maybe even a couple wind decks.
So the point of that tangent is to say that while there are 40 overall Umbra Guardian decks in the field today, 25 of those are the Oblation version.
Yep.
And something like 15, 13, some smaller number is the coup version. And then there's also outliers.
Yes.
For every single one of these deck archetypes is going to be outliers.
The not fire CL.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just incredible to me that actually outnumbered the second most popular decks, which is, to no surprise, Crux.
Yeah, so actually this is a huge upset compared from the previous meta.
Kind of
right?
is.
Like, if you looked at the previous meta, not only was the most popular deck archetype in Fractal of Insight Crux, the most popular 2 decks were Crux decks.
Yeah.
So to see this change, this is a wild change, especially for the location of the event.
Of course. I understand that a lot of players over there love Merlin. And I think this event was no exception. In spite of that, the Butler is doing work.
So yeah, there were a ton of Crux decks here, but all very firmly outnumbered by the Umbra Guardian decks.
Absolutely. Following that, we have 33 decks that are roughly classified as fire aggro, and this runs the full gamut of champions and various flavors. So there's so much. There's so much we could talk about.
The thing is, fully half of these decks are Merlin.
Yeah.
So this is where all of the other Merlins went.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, she did good at Fayble, so I think a lot of people saw that and were like, hey, I want to do this.
Yeah, 17 out of the 33 fire aggro decks here are fire aggro Merlin.
Dang, just over half. That's crazy. We had a couple other spicy ones, though, which we'll talk about in more detail once we get there. Behind that, we have Seiryu, 29 decks.
And this is the single uncontested most popular deck if you're breaking it down into these archetypes, right?
Exactly.
So while there are more Umbra Guardians total than there are Seiryus, there's about 25 Umbra Guardians that are the Oblation deck and 29 that are Seiryu.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, it's no real surprise to see why this has been a firm contender for one of the, I think, most iconic decks right now. I think I think if you're going to an event, you need to be prepared for this deck, or you need to be on this deck.
Yeah, and also, like, this deck, to no surprise to anybody, this deck did well at the event.
Of course.
Almost 60% win rate, 59.6.
Yep.
which is, I think, probably about third place for decks that got any amount of actual representation.
Yeah.
So this deck did really, really well. And keep in mind that any amount of actual representation is still like subjective.
Yeah.
Because there are, single decks that came in with a 70% win rate because that one deck made day 2.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes. But if you look at, some of these other decks, I think the next one down that still had a win rate approximating Seiryu was Shadow Strike.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is that's really good, but
That's
below that,
good.
it's like, okay, now you have like single copies or 4 copies of the deck or whatever.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
hard to determine the numbers.
Yeah. I mean, no surprise that Shadow Strike did well here, considering the wide Seiryu representation. So very
Yeah,
well
but
positioned.
a lot less Shadow Strike. I think we'll get to that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Let's not skip ahead.
Well, not skip too far ahead. You won't have to wait too long, though, because, I mean, tied for the overall Seiryu representation, we have the overall Aetherwing representation, which is split sort of between the classic Carp Song, Water Diana, and also a bit of Fire.
Yeah, the new Fire Aetherwing Diana, which we did talk about a little bit in the Fayble event.
Yep.
And it is, in fact, a deck near and dear to my heart.
Yep.
But this is a little bit more polished and also has some neat new toys.
Yeah.
Which make it, I think, better positioned than it was last meta.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it already was pretty well positioned, but now it's doing a lot better.
Yeah.
So, which is quite nice. Right after that, at 22 decks, we have the good old Luxem Assassin, which I heard affectionately referred to on stream as the Cockroach deck. And I am 100% calling it that from now on. No love lost here. I always get tempted to be a Cockroach deck.
This deck actually did surprisingly well.
It's
so
quite
even
good.
not talking about kind of the amount of like the conversion rate of it,
Yeah.
the overall win rate for Fire Luxem was about 55%.
Yeah,
so
that's
still
really
still
good.
ahead. Like this
Yeah.
is better than the conversion rate for Crux Merlin.
Mm-hmm.
This is better than the conversion rate for all of those Aetherwing decks.
Yeah.
Like this deck did well.
Yeah, this deck got some very good toys, some very good new tools, and I think it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. This is like a classic, the
Yeah.
classic control, basically. Right after that, just below 5%, we have 13 decks on Shadow Strike, which, as we mentioned, is a deck that performed very, very well.
Yeah, I would say this is the actual winningest deck
Yeah.
in the tournament.
Yeah.
Regardless of its, performance in day 2 or top 8, the highest win rate on a deck with a reasonable amount of representation.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if I should be a Shadow Strike player. We named the podcast after after that card.
Listen, if one of us have to, it should be you, because I don't want to play Wind.
All right, bet. Beyond that, we have a huge smattering of other decks, which were kind of at the sort of 3% threshold or less. We're not going to go into all of them because there are
we'd be here for
so
years.
many archetypes now.
The thing is, it's not only is there still sort of the long tail from the previous meta.
Yeah.
We are now going into the new meta. People have new ideas. Some of them are going to work. Some of them are not. But especially at the first big event, you're expecting a lot of uniqueness.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that people are going to try. Some things old, some things new. And some of them will land and some of them will not.
Yeah, exactly.
So overall, I think the diversity on display here was pretty nice.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
it.
I mean, there are a couple of one-ofs that we should point out here.
Yes, we definitely should.
Mostly because they made day 2. So, like, that's an important thing to call out here. There were 4 wake-up decks total in the field.
Yep.
2 of them made day 2.
Yep.
There was 1 deck tagged Slice and Dice.
Yes.
And this is a kind of Wind Allies Slice and Dice Xander. And that also made day 2.
That made day 2.
We had one of one Horse and Taxes.
Yes.
Made day 2.
Love to see it.
There was exactly 1 Fire Aggro CL player
Yeah.
that also made a really, really strong performance.
Yep.
Kind of cleaned up on day 2.
Yeah. Did great.
And then, like a little bit here and there, there's some stuff that's kind of not tagged here. Like there's like the Val Lorraine version of the Crux deck, which did well. There's a little bit of Fire Merlin. There's Arcane as a category that did decently well.
One of those made day 2.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too.
We'll talk about that.
But yeah, there's just like so many different categories down here that going into any depth on them is not worth the time.
There's a lot. We would be here forever, honestly, at this point. So before we do that, let's narrow things down a little bit and talk about what made day 2.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
So first things first, let's talk about the element numbers for day 2 and how this compares to the element numbers for day 1.
Yeah.
And they are exactly what you'd expect.
Yes.
Fire is spot on the same, 51%, 29 decks out of the 57 total decks. We lost some water decks and gained some wind decks.
Yes, we lost quite a few water decks, as it turns out.
Water actually dropped precipitously here. Haha. I'm mad at myself now. That was a mistake.
I'm mad for you.
Good,
but
good,
not
yes.
that much.
Good. But yeah, only 5 water decks made it to day 2. Absolutely tiny. 22 wind decks made it to day 2. So all of the percentage that water dropped, wind gained, and we have the same 2% representation for norm.
Yeah. We had our token norm deck.
Our token norm deck. Now, normally I refer to these decks as slime decks because what other deck is going to come in with a norm spirit besides a slime deck? And it turns out that there is another deck that is going to come in with a norm spirit. And we will discuss it.
We're going to discuss it.
But yeah, let's take a look at the overall numbers. Yeah. So the most popular deck, popular is maybe the wrong word, but the deck that is most common in day 2.
The most prevalent,
that's the word.
The apex predator, as it
were. Surprisingly on point, is Seiryu.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Seiryu in day 2.
Dragon good.
Right? 12 decks. 21% of day 2 is Seiryu, which gives it a conversion rate of a 41% compared to the 20% overall conversion rate.
Okay.
And this matches with the win rate that it had, just shy of 60%. This is really, really good.
Yeah, excellent.
The next most prevalent deck, Shadow Strike.
Yes.
An even higher win rate for Shadow Strike and an even higher conversion rate for Shadow Strike.
Damn, that's
so
impressive.
7 out of 13 Shadow Strike decks made it to day 2, giving it a better than 50% conversion rate.
Yeah, I mean, the Seiryu versus Shadow Strike matchup is definitely I don't want to say lopsided matchups, but one of the more polarizing matchups in this game. And you really need to know what you're doing on one side. Maybe more so than the other.
Sure.
Which is not to say that it doesn't require skill. I mean, we saw some crazy plays in regards to that matchup.
Yeah, Shadow Strike, I think we have harped on this a lot over the course of this podcast.
Yeah.
But Shadow Strike is a deck with a very high skill ceiling.
Yes.
It is a kind of low floor. You need to know what you're doing with this deck.
Yep.
But if you know what you're doing, you will be rewarded.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the dedicated Shadow Strike players have been cooking pretty hard, and you can really see it in this event.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of dedicated players, we also had a bunch of dedicated players on Fire Luxem.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of Fire Luxem diehards, and they showed up to this event.
Yeah, that deck has been around since the beginning, and folks have been trying so hard with that deck, even before it got the boosted power from Deft Executor, and they are, through thick and thin, they continue to exist.
Yeah, and they existed pretty well at this event too. So 7 Fire Luxem decks made it to day 2.
Yeah.
This is big numbers. This is real big numbers.
Huge.
Which is 12% of the field. 37% of the Fire Luxem decks actually made it, which is a really good conversion rate. Especially considering the win rate is a little bit lower than sort of Seiryu and Shadow Strike, right? Down to like the 55% mark.
Absolutely.
But still a really good performance. So still a standout deck. Still a deck that like you would expect to do well on.
Yeah.
So pretty good here. However, moving into decks that maybe you don't expect to do as well on. So next in the list is Oblation.
Yes.
There were 5 Oblation decks in day 2.
Yep.
And remember, that is out of 25 total decks.
One of the more popular decks.
Right? So this is the first deck on this list that didn't actually make a positive conversion rate. This is just shy of the 20.7% that is conversion from day 1 to day 2.
Man.
And the win rate reflects it. It's 49%. So this is a deck that made it to day 2 with a sub 50% win rate.
What happened?
Because of the amount of decks that made it, and the few decks that made it and did really well.
Yeah, I will say that this is a deck that I think you feel the variance a lot in, because while its endgame is quite destructive, I think the potential to the brickiness is very high.
Yeah.
So mitigating that takes some training, some getting used to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The next 2 decks in a similar boat, also 5 decks of the field, Fire Merlin and Aetherwing.
Yeah.
The Water Aetherwing deck.
Love that.
And this is, both of them being, this is slightly better conversion rates just because not as many of them in the field. Out of 17 overall decks, 5 made it for Fire Merlin.
Yeah.
Out of 21 overall decks, 5 made it for Water Aetherwing.
Very nice.
And so this is a positive conversion rate, but still low win rate overall for the event. So both of those are also like sub 50%.
Yeah.
So this is a deck that people who are good with the deck are making it, but you do have to be good with the deck. It is not a free roll by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, you have to be very precise.
Right. So to see them having this kind of presence in day 2 with that kind of win rate means there were a lot of people on this deck that tanked.
Yeah, it's tough. So we're gonna have to let the chefs cook a little bit more on that.
I think so. I think there's a lot of decks still that people are trying to make work from the previous meta.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
And some of them will work just by the numbers. Some of them will work.
Yeah,
but I think they are definitely positioned less well. Right. So not quite as winning as they were in the previous meta for sure.
Yeah.
And people need to take a little bit of time to come to grips with that.
Yeah, it could also just be like new adopters, I think
some
people are learning the deck now that they've seen the really spicy card, and they're saying, I want to play this. I want to play the really spicy card before they ban it. Suppose I don't think they're banning it
I don't think they're
just
yet.
But yeah, it looks like there's a bit of nuance there, which will need some extra learning and processing. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
So this is at this point like just sub 10% of the field, right? All 3 of these decks on 9% of the field. Going down from there were 4 non-oblation Umbra Guardian decks.
The coup decks.
Right. And this deck had a slightly better win percentage than the oblation deck.
Yeah.
So this is maybe a better choice, or maybe just easier to play. I'm not really sure exactly where the differences on those numbers are being made up.
Yeah, perhaps it's a little easier to stabilize with that deck.
I think so. I think the oblation deck is a little bit more all in. And sometimes you can make the choice of like, do I go all in, do I not?
Yeah.
And that can be sometimes difficult to make that choice correctly.
True.
But yeah, 4 non-oblation Umbra Guardian decks. And then we see our first, not our first, our first true aggro deck in the field.
Yeah.
So 3 copies of Suzaku made it into day 2.
Oh yeah. This
Yeah,
deck did pretty dang well.
This is actually like a really good conversion rate for the deck.
Yeah.
But that's because not a lot of Suzakus made it to the field overall.
Yeah. It definitely was not a popular deck.
Yeah, it feels like for kind of the upper echelon of players, if they're going to play an aggro deck, that deck is going to be Suzaku.
Yeah.
But it just really hasn't been popular.
Yeah.
Like it just hasn't been doing well lately. I guess just aggro in general hasn't really been positioned well in our previous meta.
I mean, definitely I think the mid-range decks sort of took over. You definitely had some diehard Suzaku players among that. But I do think it's a good choice here. I think a lot of folks have sort of strayed away from running like the Safeguard Amulet in their deck, and because Suzaku is an aggro deck that focuses more on non-attack damage, I think it kind of gets an edge there.
Yeah, and it did very well for its representation in this tournament. I do want to call that out. 3 out of 5 is 60% conversion rate.
Hey,
admittedly, these are single-digit numbers. It's, take statistics with a grain of salt.
But still!
Yeah, that's pretty good. Overall, close to 60% win rate, 58.9% win rate.
Hey, that's not bad.
So the deck did really well in the field today, and that is some element of aggro being a little bit better positioned in this format, what with all the new changes and people still trying to like nail down the exact numbers for their deck and et cetera, but also I think can be attributed to some of the better players being the ones that decided this is the deck I'm going to take in.
Absolutely.
So below Suzaku, we start running into 2-ofs. 2-ofs and 1-ofs. So I'm not going to like go into huge detail on all of these, but the most important thing that I do want to say here is there were 2 Fire Aggro Merlins, the new Merlin.
Yeah.
And this, like we were saying before, kind of looks a lot like typical assassin aggro lists, like Fiza, like Fire Tristan.
Yep.
A lot of the same tools, a lot of the same toys.
Yeah.
Some neat new tricks.
Yep.
Overall, deck didn't do well.
Yeah. We had a couple good ones.
Right.
A couple decent performances. But
if we look at kind of the other decks that are sort of in this section of the day 2 coverage, right? We had 3 out of 5 Suzakus. We had 2 out of 4 Wake Ups. We have like 1 out of 1 Wind Ally Slice and Dice, whatever the heck is going on here. This is 2 Fire Merlin decks out of 12 Fire Merlin decks in the field.
Yeah.
So this is a terrible conversion rate.
Yeah.
But enough were there that it did okay.
All right.
So yeah, these 1-ofs, we do have to call out these 1-ofs because they're all uniformly across the board not a deck that you would expect to see.
Yep, but they are here.
Right? So 1-of Wind Allies Slice and Dice with Xander.
Yep.
I don't know what's happening with this deck, but it looked like it did pretty well.
I have been wanting some Allies presence, and I'll take this as the beginning of that. Maybe we'll see a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel like this is a little bit of kind of an aggro comeback for Wind.
Yeah.
This is kind of like somebody looked at the tools that Wind has and decided that, well, what if I am more aggressively going for an early game strategy instead of trying to play the mid game and go for a late game strategy? And this is, I think, what that looks like. This makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, Wind, Slice, and Dice Xander.
Okay.
One of Horse and Taxes. This deck hasn't changed much.
This deck is still going.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll get you off guard.
We have one of Spirit Ruler Lorraine, which is the only Lorraine deck? The only Lorraine deck in day 2.
What? That's crazy.
Literally the only Lorraine that is not part of a Merlin lineage.
How did this happen?
Right? Like, we went from full on, the entire top 8 was Crux Knight.
The whole field was Crux Knight.
Right? We had like 60%
nothing
of the
but
field
Crux
was
Knight.
Crux Knight.
What happened? Guys, what happened?
One Spirit Ruler in day 2.
Okay. That's bizarre.
Yeah, one of. So this deck actually, I think, remains fairly unchanged. It did have copies of the new Breakout cards.
Yes,
So
it definitely
Topsy
did.
Decree went ham this
Oh,
event.
we love
We
Topsy
will
Decree.
talk about these cards.
We will talk about Topsy Decree.
But yeah, one Spirit Ruler.
Yeah.
One Fire Aggro Guardian, so CL here.
Yep.
One Fire Aggro CL. And this deck, bonkers performance. Absolutely great.
Yep.
And one of the 4 Arcane decks made it to day 2.
Yes.
Only one, though.
May not be the one you expected.
Yeah, right? But yeah, I think we might be talking about that too. If I know Ken at all, I think we're going to be talking about this deck.
I can't miss a chance to talk about an Arcane deck.
Yep. But yeah, so this is fascinating representation. And I think overall, the archetype representation fits the impressions of the old meta better than it fits impressions of a sort of blank slate new meta.
I would agree, and I think that makes sense as the first meta of a new season.
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot of the old stalwarts.
We, surprisingly, not that much aggro in the field.
Yeah.
7 aggro decks in day 2. The sort of ally-y tempo decks, also not much. But this is kind of the not much that we expected. There's just not that much of this kind of deck in the field these days. The Water Ether Wing deck, I think, still plays fairly tempo, and that's kind of the only representation that you get of this style of game.
It's kind of the closest you're going to get to Water allies right now, I think, with especially its sort of very, very powerful bodies that it's dropping, which are not only just pooping out a ton of damage, but can very easily keep the board clear.
Yeah, the more traditional type of water allies we haven't seen in a while. And I think in general, allies decks are just really not well positioned in the format because of stuff like Oblation, because of stuff like Dragon just going over the top.
Yeah.
Right? It's so easy to just punch over a stalled field. And the traditional sort of ally formula just doesn't hit hard enough to really break through these level 3 walls.
Yeah. I mean, if you can stabilize, it's really rough for the other decks to recover.
We did end up with a lot of mid range, which is this is kind of the holdover from the previous meta.
Yeah, mid range.
This is exactly what you'd expect.
Still going very strong.
Absolutely. Not a lot of control. Mostly Fire Luxem.
Yeah.
Insofar as that is a control deck.
Yeah.
And that's honestly a little back and forth, whether that's sort of combo, whether that's sort of control.
Yeah, I think it's control. I mean, you're trying to stabilize. You're trying to sort of stay alive.
Yeah.
I still loop it in as control. Everything in Grand Archive has a little bit of a combo.
Yeah, the problem is any level 3 fire deck is going to be this sort of base shell until you get to level 3.
It's true.
And then your game plan starts.
Yeah.
And most of the time, that game plan is combo your opponent out.
It's true.
Right? So that is kind of mid-rangey. That is, wait till turn 3, and then kill your opponent.
Yeah.
And with Luxem, sometimes that looks like wait till turn 12, and then kill your opponent.
It's get to like 10 cards, and then be like, all right, can I win the game?
Yeah. Did
I draw my double light
weavers? So this is kind of into the control slot, but it's a very mid-rangey kind of control.
Yeah. Which I feel is kind of more just a feature of things.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But we still had a ton of combo in the field.
Yes.
And this is Dragon, mostly. Yeah. Dragon is a lot of combo. Oblation is kind of a combo deck, especially with Foe Awakening.
Yeah. Oblation, I think, is firmly in the realm of combo.
Yeah. Definitely kind of going to level 3 and then like, okay, can I kill you right now?
Yeah.
And it's not any amount of like, okay, well, now that I'm level 3, I can start my game plan. It's now that I am level 3, you're dead or I'm dead.
Yeah.
Which is a very combo attitude.
Now, if you don't draw the combo, maybe it starts to look like mid-range.
Yeah, right?
But you know, try to draw your combo.
But also, like, if you're playing combo hard enough, you could just go off with Fu Awakening at level 2.
It's true.
Well, no, you have to be level 3 in order to lineage release. But still.
When they're level 2.
When they're level 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
So multiple different avenues to get combo kills in this Oblation deck.
Yeah.
Which is, that's neat.
It's pretty
That's
cool.
a neat thing that this deck does.
It's pretty fun.
Yep.
For you, not your opponent, not so much.
Also, a couple of wake-up decks. So wake-up combo is still real.
Yeah.
They're still out there.
Definitely.
They'll still kill you. So this is a slightly different bell curve than we have seen from previous Ascents.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
It's, in fact, even a little bit more slanted than Akihabara or Auckland because of that combo representation, because of that dragon representation. So it's almost even peaks here instead of being like one giant mountain and then, you know, little combo foothills.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a lot of this is the old meta representation, and the aggro that we're kind of expecting from a new meta has maybe not surfaced quite as much.
Yeah. Certainly a lot we could talk about here.
Yeah,
really.
absolutely.
A lot we could attribute this to. One thing that I would like to do is, because we're in the start of a new season, is we like to highlight some of the cards that have been doing really, really well for folks.
Yeah, and I think this is actually going to tell a lot of the story here.
Yeah.
Because if we're looking at the old decks and we're looking at what new is coming in, the first place people are always going to start is like, okay, which of the new cards fit well into the deck I'm already familiar with in order to make that deck better?
Absolutely.
And a bunch of those cards are defensive tools or kind of mid-range power tools or value tools.
Yeah. So the first one we should definitely highlight is the new Divine Relic, Lost Providence.
Yep.
This is being run in many, many level 3 decks. Not all of them. There are a few exceptions, but this is a nice sort of just cheap way to generate influence. It's also kind of a combo enabler for the Oblation decks and stuff like that, so there's a lot of relevant use cases here. It looks really innocuous because it's just like, oh, it just draws you a card. You could just use a GCR, right? But it's like you skip a material step, basically. You materialize one less thing.
And I think this is a really, really important card for the numbers of the Dragon decks that we saw today. Because this enables Dragon to have a fundamental turn that is one turn earlier than any previous version of this deck.
Yeah.
The Dragon obviously has a lot of ways to win, a lot of ways to kind of combo off with Seiryu, but the most reliable way to do it is within a single turn, fire off a Seryu's command and a Byaku's command.
Yeah.
And get your, 20 whatever damage. I think it's 20, 24 damage directly.
At least.
Yeah. And,
at least.
And Lost Providence means that you get that extra card to get to the 6 influence that you need one turn earlier.
Yeah, so your consequence of turboing is a lot less dire at this point, because that just means on the next turn you can go, hey, I'm going to prereq Seryu's command, I'm going to recollect, I'm going to slam Byaku's command, blast. Have a great time.
Yeah.
So that card is doing quite well, and I think the applications for this card are only going to keep growing as well. Another good regalia that we should shout out is the Palver Sword. Very good considering how many decks out there are reliant on the graveyard. But also, this is kind of making some rounds in the Looking Glass decks as a way to buff your Cheshire Cat even higher.
Yep. 2 more power for your Cheshire Cat is a big deal.
But this is an Nerd Sword, your cat's swinging for 5, and that's ridiculous. Why did you feed this cat so much?
Great start.
It's wonderful. So yeah, this card has a lot of application. It's also really great in the Crux decks because, they can just Ascension out a Palver Sword and have a great time.
Yeah. So, I think we haven't seen it shining quite yet in the same way that Lost Providence or card coming up next.
Yeah.
But that's because it's more of a role player than it is a star card.
Definitely.
Right? It is a card that sort of supports the existing strategy without building a new strategy or being the focal point of a defense.
Exactly. Speaking of focal point of a defense.
Right?
Topsy Decree.
What a card.
Oh my God. We saw this card pop off so hard on stream. It was nuts. This card does so much. And you can kind of choose the order in which things resolve. So, you can make your opponent discard a bunch of things and then banish them all from the graveyard. You can give yourself Spell Shroud. You can just make your opponent's day very miserable. There's an opportunity cost because you have to run a lot of norm cards. But a lot of folks were just playing this for one mode. by itself. It's still perfectly fine as a non-imbued card.
Yeah, this card was, I would suspect, and here we're going off into the realm of wild speculation here. But this card really does seem like the most important reason that Oblation was not terrorizing the day 2 and top 8 as much as people might have expected.
Yeah.
The value of Foe Awakening goes down a lot when every deck has access to Spell Shroud.
It's true. This makes it a lot harder to land those kills. So I suspect you'll be seeing this around for a while.
Yeah, this card is not only very powerful as a defensive tool, but also really flexible. Like, you can just have it in your deck and get value out of it almost no matter who you're playing against.
And anyone can run it, basically. If you build your deck right, you'll be doing this pretty consistently. And even if not, you can still find use out of it, which is cool. And the other one we want to talk about is Unmake Duality.
Yeah.
We saw... So it turns out with this card, it turns the Looking Glass from a archetype enabler to just a value piece that you're always going to see at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we weren't expecting much, I think, from this set in terms of making the Looking Glass more powerful.
Yeah.
There were a couple that, for the most part, I think people weren't expecting new distortions.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, maybe you could. They're definitely, like, set appropriate.
Yeah.
But we've already seen a lot of power out of distortions, out of the distortion archetypes, out of Cheshire Cat, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think people weren't expecting much in the way of new distortions.
Yeah.
Honestly, Palvor's Sword was kind of a surprise for me.
Yeah, Palvor's Sword, honestly, I mean, I know people were hyped about this card, at least locally, but, it definitely has shown itself to be a very effective card.
But Unmake Duality actually gives you more power from Looking Glass in a way that additional distortions wouldn't.
Yeah,
because it gives you a little bit more value over the long term, in the same way that Turbocharge gives you more value over the long term just by running Backup Charger.
It's a turbocharge where you don't even need to materialize for it to be good.
Yeah, exactly.
You just pop it and go. You have a great time.
It's kind of an easy include.
Yeah. Honestly, if you don't need any other distortions, you just run that and you have a wonderful, wonderful time.
Yeah.
There are definitely more we can talk about in terms of breakout cards, but a lot of them sort of are more on a deck-by-deck basis. So we'll talk about them now as we talk about decks that we thought were pretty neat. And to start off, I have to, of course, shout out 39th place. We have Muck1234 on Norm Arcane Rye.
Oh, here we go.
It's the Spirit of Purity, which it turns out in this field, another reason why Oblation might have suffered, or just a lot of the fire decks and maybe the water graveyard specific decks in general, is just having a way to fast speed banish cards from the graveyard is very, very good.
Yeah.
With Rye, it's especially obnoxious because, as we all know, Rye Stormseer gets +1 level for every arcane card in his banishment, and so if you just play a bunch of arcane cards and then banish them with Spirit of Purity, you are +2 levels. And that's
that is really obnoxious.
It's so good. I absolutely love it. Now, this does mean you don't have the same type of tools that you would, say, compared to like a Fire Rye or Wind Rye, but...
no creative shocks.
No creative shocks. No 3 visits, no like disorienting winds, do your arcane elemental stuff, but there's plenty of stuff you can do. Mnemonic Charm is a nice card neutral play. Fluffy Shopkeep, card neutral plays.
Do love a Shopkeep.
You can still play your Careful Studies. We have Rictus Tiding here doing work, and there's quite a few ways you can trigger this. Hilariously, Careful Study with any of your 0-cost cards is a pretty good way to do it. You have a couple of 4s here, like your Erratic Bolts, and 1 copy of Woolbrook that you could use. Woolbrook also notably a way to draw some extra cards. You can effectively +1 with this because on entry, it draws you a card, and then when you eventually pop the refinement counter on it, draws you another card. So it's just a way to sort of accrue value over the course of the game.
Yeah, it is kind of a heavy investment, 4 and then 6, but it is value.
Yeah. I mean, it is a thing you can do. Pure into Mana is back. I love Pure into Mana.
About time.
Yep. And then along with that, you kind of just have a lot of the classic arcane tools, the big arcane package that you kind of have come to expect. Voltaic Sphere makes a comeback here. The material deck has to get a little bit of a change here. We have the new Ducal Seal that we get to take advantage of, which is an Exalted Terrafring. Lost Providence is being chosen the Divine Relic, which means you lose some of the Quicksilver Grail tech. But we are running Tome of Sorcery here, which means that you get a little bit of extra card draw off of this when you eventually pull out the Tome of Sacred Lightning, which is
Right.
pretty cool. Alcahest is a very big one. You need to blow up your opponent's Orb of Sealing if you run into an Oblation deck.
Very true.
That's a very important one. Orb of Sealing will shut this deck down completely. And then Enfeebling Orb, the new sort of blinding orb that everybody can use more.
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of these showing up in the Regalia decks in day 2 as well.
Yeah, a pretty good card here. So there's a lot of cool stuff here, and I really want to see where this deck goes in the future. But it seems like this one is pretty strong. Hyoka, the Rye God himself, even said that the Spirit of Purity being one of the most high potential cards for Rye in this set. So
All right, well, if it's Hyoka approved.
yes, so we'll see how that goes. He did a big deep dive into PTM cards that he thought were good for Rye, so I recommend checking that out if any of you are interested. 33rd place, we have It's Shota's Wind Unique Ally Xander. This is the Slice and Dice Wind Allies build that we alluded to earlier. There are so many unique allies in this deck.
Yeah, there is a lot going on here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very much sort of the Oath of Sakura deck that was popular in the beginning of AMB season.
Yep.
And it's just assassins and slice and dice for that extra punch.
Pretty much.
Which I think is everything that Wind Allies needed, right?
It kind of is,
Wind
yeah.
Allies was already a pretty aggressive deck.
Yeah.
And if you get a proper Oath of the Sakura off, that's a game ender. Mortal Ambition, a game ender.
Great
and
game ender.
Slice and Dice, absolutely a game
100%
ender.
a game ender. The funny thing is, I don't think this main deck actually added anything new. Really, the only new thing we're seeing is the Purifying Thurible in the material deck. Otherwise, it's just a lot of cards that we have already seen. They've just been reorganized into a way that cleaned up pretty well.
Yeah, and of course the addition of Assassin's Ripper and just generally playing Assassin for Wind Allies.
Yeah.
Normally
Huge
you see
burst.
Lorraine here instead.
Yep, you get Massive Burst, you get Sadie, and you get Incapacitates, and that at least assures that you have a good way to protect your kill con.
Yeah, it really feels
great.
like you get sort of the power of board control from an early game Shadow Strike deck, and this turns into sort of the mid game win, not by Shadow Strike, but by keeping that board control and surprising people with a Slice and Dice or a Mortal Ambition.
Yeah, I also really love 3 Blanch in the main board, just as a way to proactively protect your stuff.
You really need to.
You have to here, so that's really cool to see. In 30th place, we have True Sight Leocroy on the Fire Aggro Diana list. This is a deck that will just shoot you for 8 damage every turn.
Yep. Yeah. This is almost card for card the Fire Ether Wing that I tried to play in a Store Champs.
Yeah.
Like, okay. But it's got some additional new tricks, which I think position it much better in the format. We talked a little bit about this during the Fayble Regional.
Yeah.
And in general, I think the important tools here are the new things, as well as a bit of a focus on the Cheshire Cat, right?
Yeah.
Being able to play the Inert Sword, being able to play the Palver Sword, and get that extra power off of a single starting ally so that your early game is not entirely dependent on Trivariate Dream, because that can be a little bit fragile sometimes.
Absolutely. Now, if your Trivariate Dream does stay around, then you have so much more to load it up with through the power of Ignition Draw, and also Burning Ether Charge, already supplementing things. Also, I love the 4 Blazing Throws here. Like, you're just going to throw...
No, that's correct.
You have so many weapons, and you're going to throw all of them. If you
Yeah, no, I looked through this whole deck list, and I was like, yeah, no, that's correct.
Yeah,
that is correct. You're doing the correct thing.
This is how we do it. This is how we do it.
Absolutely.
So this is really cool to see. We saw Leocroy almost turn to kill somebody with the right setup. Which
That's how it works. I mean, that's what this deck does. If your opponent blinks wrong and you have the right draw, absolutely kill them on turn 2. Which very few other decks in any of the formats have had that kind of power.
It's very difficult to actually get to that point. So it was wild to see that. 24th place, we have Tsu on Fire Aggro CL. This is the Guardian aggro deck that we alluded to earlier. This deck has a lot of tricks that we are familiar with. In addition to some really nice Guardian coded things, we have the Veteran Blaze Bearer, who's a very aggressive 2/3 that can protect you in a pinch. You have the Blazing Charge, which can just do a big crap ton of damage for only 2 power, or for only 2 reserve cost rather. And then you have some CL specific tools. We have Conflagrative Trounce, which is effectively 4 damage for 1 reserve cost, with the Right Omen setup. And then you have Inverted Pyroslash, which is, with the Right Omen setup, 6 damage for 1. Which, admittedly, it hits you for 5, but, it's fine. If they get knocked out, then you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, it's interesting to see this built primarily off of cards that were previously available to us.
I think so.
I think the introduction of Inverted Pyroslash is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just a few more attacks in order to get some extra value out of your omens.
Yeah, you can do a lot of work here. I also really like the Enfeebling Orb in the material deck as a sort of way to preemptively make sure that they cannot respond to your attacks, to your sort of aggressive approach. Yeah, really, really good here. Also, some cheeky stuff on the board. 2 folds in the board because you do get that unpreventable damage boost, which is nice.
Yeah, that is definitely relevant under the right conditions.
I like it. So, very cool deck. 22nd place, we have KLVR. I want to say clever. I don't know if they meant it that way, but that's what my brain jumps to. Fire Kusiel. This deck is the Beguiling Coup variant of the CL decks that we saw. Running a bit more of a toolbox here with the Grim Pastiche. And there's some pretty cheeky things that it can do now with the power of Foe Awakening backing it up. Notably, we have a 1/of Accursed Strength, which you can respond to with a Foe Awakening, so that once your foe resolves, you can draw back up your hand. And that's a little spicy.
Yeah, that's a very cool trick.
Yeah. And we're also seeing 3 copies of Abnegation to heal up while you sort of plan how you're going to knock out your opponent.
Yeah, I think this is something that we're seeing in a decent chunk of these Umbra CL decks.
Yeah.
As kind of a new addition, a new defensive tool, since really CL has almost all of the defense already. Not so much. I think the previous approach was, okay, if we do Ablation, we can kill our opponents before they get online, right?
Yeah.
And then with Abnegation, it's more defense, but it's enough more defense that it gives you the time you need to get your stuff set up.
Exactly.
Whereas otherwise, you might come in sort of just behind, say, Seryu or another deck that's also going into these kind of level 3 big punches. Even with your, 36 starting health pool, getting an extra 8 recover is no joke.
Oh yeah, it's huge. The other fun part is the Umbra sets are curses, which means your Abnegation gets that much better, and I think that's really funny. So yeah, we're seeing some CL do pretty well here. One of the many flavors of CL. In 19th place, we have Inaki on Fire Aggro Merlin. This is the assassin aggro that we alluded to previously. A lot of tools that you're familiar with, but we also have the Molten Echoes and the Tweedledums sort of rounding out the package here. We're also seeing Infernal Vessel as a main board material card, which is great to stop all that recovery that's happening.
Right, and that recovery is everywhere these days.
There's so much of it. It's crazy. I also see the Quicksilver Grail Poison Dagger combo, which is a combo that is near and dear to my heart. And so it's great to see it here.
Yeah, this feels very similar to all of the assassin aggro decks that we've seen up to this point.
Definitely.
I think the addition of Molten Echo is kind of a big deal. And is the primary reason to be on Merlin instead of Xander or Tristan.
Absolutely.
And that makes a pretty big difference. More of a difference than I would have expected.
Oh yeah, this damage adds up. Do not underestimate it. Did you know? Fun fact: you can kindle the ephemerate cost.
I did not know that.
It's wild.
I love to see it.
It's fantastic. So yeah, this is a powerful deck. Great to see it here. In 17th place, we have Lancelim 0210's Horse and Taxes. You know this deck.
I do know this deck. So this deck has changed from previous incarnations in a couple of ways.
Yes.
First off, it's got the most overhyped card of the set, Calming Breeze.
Yep. Calming Breeze is a card that exists and people are using.
It's so uncommon.
It is.
Like, people are not playing this card nearly as much as we would have expected, considering how much yelling there was about how overpowered Calming Breeze was going to be.
No clear verdict yet on whether it is truly worth the hype or just overblown.
Yeah. But it is in this deck, and I think it's actually important in this deck because it does provide a little bit of extra more float.
Yes.
that this deck always needed. It always needed that like one extra card to kind of have the critical mass going into turn 2 and 3 to be able to really stay in the game, I think is the important part. And Unmake Duality helps with that a lot.
Oh yeah, this is a huge boost for this deck. That does so much for this deck.
Because if you look through this deck, there is nothing that it is doing in the main that requires a Looking Glass other than Unmake Duality.
Yeah.
So what this Looking Glass is supporting is it's supporting Inert Sword. Inert Sword's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
But mostly what this Looking Glass is supporting is it is supporting a turbocharge that doesn't require a Materialize.
Yes, which is huge for this deck. You want to get in there and you want to tax as early as possible. I will say it's interesting seeing a dual spirit here, the Fragmented as well as the regular spirit. But I think if you're going to Vanitas, it's not going to be too hard to get that card back. It's a nice little refund after you turbo 3.
I think being able to... This deck relies very, very much on having the exact correct number of cards.
Yes.
So you can make the choice going second to play with Fragmented Spirit.
Yeah.
You cannot play Fragmented Spirit going first unless things line up exactly correct for you.
Absolutely.
So seeing this kind of dynamic choice in this deck is also a really interesting innovation.
Yeah, very good pick. This is still a deck that I would be terrified to see played in front of me. So let's hope that I don't have to see it anytime soon.
But yeah, I think after losing Ryle, this deck lost a lot of popularity, and Unmake Duality kind of pretends to be a Ryle.
Gets a big kick in the pants, I think.
Yeah, I think that's pretty
Very
good here.
strong. Very nice. So that's really cool. 14th place, we have Taco on Oblation CL. This was the boogeyman, or at least people thought it was, but it definitely is up here, so it's definitely worth the hype, as it were.
It is important to point out that the Oblation CL that we're talking about is in 14th place because there was no higher placing Oblation CL.
Yes, that is correct. This is the top ranking Oblation CL.
So the boogeyman goes this high and no further.
Yes, you must be this tall to ride. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything terribly surprising about this deck. If you've been on the internet, you generally know what to expect with this deck. It is generally terrifying to fight.
Yeah, obviously the new stuff, because of in the new format, is Foe Awakening.
Yeah.
That's really the only big change. I think we are seeing a little bit more gentle respite than we saw in previous years.
Yeah.
That's the wrong word, but whatever. That we saw in the previous meta because of the rules change.
The rule change definitely means that this is a great turn 1 play.
Yeah,
so
this is a lot easier to play on turn 1 than previously you just couldn't. This wasn't something that you could do.
Also, Topsy Decree makes its appearance here. I think this is a thing that we weren't seeing in the lists prior to this event as much. Maybe a little bit, but obviously this is a great card if you run into the Mirror or any deck that would be affected by it.
Yeah. Topsy Decree and Fu Awakening, kind of the new cards that injected a little bit of power into this deck. And then Gentle Respite because of the rules change. And otherwise, this is very, very close to what we were seeing in the previous meta. Not a whole lot of changes otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and Lost Providence. Let's not forget Lost Providence.
Oh, yeah, no. Lost Providence? Oh, no. This thing is
the
core
free
to the combo.
Materialize.
Core to the combo, my friends. In 12th place, we have Dennis Yao, the Fayble regional winner on Water Aetherwing Diana. The Carp Song Special, the highest ranking water deck in this event.
And consistent too, right? Winning the regional and then coming in here and making 12th place at Manila. This shows that not only is Dennis Yao a strong player, this deck is strong and rewards that skill level.
It's very good. It can burst out so much damage. It's running the Palvor Sword now in the main board. No longer using the Diana 2. I know that some decks were already cutting the Diana 2 just because it's not always a relevant way to get the damage you need. And it really works out well here as another way to sort of push damage with those cats and just by swinging with it. A couple one-ofs, by which I mean a single chain charge and 2 Mad Hatters. Notably, I believe this is to load Weaving Mana Stream. Because
that makes sense.
Yeah, so there are exactly there are 3 1-cost regalia that this can banish, and then you're probably materializing the other one so you can load a Weaving Mana Stream, and then just keep pressuring with that damage. And yeah, this thing will pressure you with damage it is nasty. I would like to call it Overlapping Visages in the side as a way to sack an ally, which I think is particularly good if your opponent is on, I'd say, Dragon.
Sure.
So, congrats to Dennis. It's a great performance. I am a little biased, of course. I love seeing this deck perform.
Sure are.
But, But right before we talk about the top 8, we had one deck that had the relevant number of wins, but just narrowly missed the top cut. And that is Freedom 0212 on Wind Wake Up.
Yep, in 9th place with the same record as the 8th place Neoniclax. So not quite making it in, but very close.
Very close.
And just on the tie breaks, didn't quite make it.
Yeah. But taking a look at his list, we are seeing Invective Instruction, which is a card that I haven't seen in a while. But this is definitely a pretty good candidate for this type of deck.
Absolutely, yeah. It is a big power burst.
Yep.
And you're never getting the class bonus since this deck doesn't run a champion.
Yep.
But it is still 3 extra power, which is a big chunk of power, and means that you're not relying solely on the Ranger boots in order to get that boost.
Absolutely. And there are a couple cheeky things here. A 1 of Charge the Soul, just to pop shields. An Expeditious Opening to sort of surprise your opponent with a fast ally. And a Veiling Breeze, just in case things go south.
Yeah, it's a fascinating inclusion of silver bullets here, because all of these are clearly tailored to very specific situations that aren't going to come up every game. But the approach of having one of all of these cards in your main, I think, is really interesting. It kind of gives you a little bit of outs, since there are extra copies of all of these cards. No, not the Veiling Breeze, but most of these cards in the sideboard. So you can set yourself up to have more of them in the situations when you need them in games 2 and 3. And this is just a little bit of like, maybe I will have it in game 1. It's fascinating. I'm not sure whether this is like trying to play the odds, or whether this is the expectation of in day 2 my opponent will know my deck list, and I want them to have the fear, or I'm not exactly sure what the rationale is for this. But it is an approach to sideboarding that I have seen kind of meta in, meta out, kind of sometimes more common, sometimes less common in Grand Archive in a way that I don't think I've seen in other card games.
I'm starting to appreciate it. The idea that you have like maybe 1 of something in the main and 1 of something in the side for like a few different cards. And then you can sort of pick and choose the ones that you think you'll need more of, or sort of get rid of the ones that just aren't relevant to the matchup at all, and just sort of tweak sort of that interaction package in the way that you need.
Yeah, and I think that's the intent, is be a little bit pre-boarded for any one of several matches. And then tweak the numbers later.
Yeah, so pretty neat to see this. So big congrats to Freedom. This deck is still terrifying to play against, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon.
No, I'm sure not.
Anyway, let's talk about the top cut.
Yeah, so we haven't talked much about Crux yet.
No.
And that is because we have some Crux in the top 8 to discuss.
There is much Crux to talk about, starting with our 8th place, Neoniclax on Fire Merlin. This is, in many ways, the Merlin that you all know and love. A fragmented fire spirit for that good interaction with Merlin Memory Thief, getting you the early Spirit Shard. But there's also some new stuff here. So we have the Looking Glass, along with the Inert Sword and the Sword of Shadows. You can do all the fun things you want with that, with the Fluffy Shopkeep, all that sort of thing. But we're also running 3 unmade dualities, because eventually you run out of things to bring out with the Looking Glass, and you say, I don't need this Looking Glass anymore. I think I will draw 2 cards.
Yep.
That's pretty good. Another worthwhile thing to note about this deck is we're not seeing any Spirit Blade Ascensions, and we're not seeing a Prismatic Edge.
No, the only Crux cards in this deck are Ghost of Pendragon and Incarnate Majesty.
Yep, so the Majestic Spirit is here, and it is doing its damnedest to beat down your opponent while protecting you. Some of the other interaction here is interesting. We have, of course, the Topsy Decrees, because the Topsy Decree is quite good. We have a couple Regal Inquisitions. We have 3 Verucan Acolytes, because you have to stop the Carp Song decks from blowing you up somehow. And we also have a new Merlin card, the Flared Iridescence.
It's Fireballs 6 through 7.
Yeah, we love more Fireballs. This was the prime argument for me to start playing Kingslayer, honestly, and I may consider that if my Carp Song career gets cut terribly short. So this card is just more Fireball.
Yep.
It might have been built for Fire Assassin Merlin, but Fire Mage Merlin can do it just as well.
Yep, it's
not
4
better.
damage for 2, and then it is 4 damage for 2 again.
Yep.
And the one thing that Merlin is very, very good at is building influence. So you always have the reserve to throw more Flared Iridescences at your opponent.
Exactly, and this deck will blow you up in spectacular fashion. But I really want to call attention to the sideboard because... So the Merlin Assassin tools are actually quite good for Kingslayer because we have 2 copies of Protector at all costs, which is a fast way to either generate a little extra pressure or protect yourself from like a big attack, say maybe like a Shadow Strike or a big old devastating blow from a CL, something like that. We also have 3 copies of Nimue Curse Touch, which is a new... anti-dragon tech, because you can put this out there and then pull something like Resolute Stand on your opponent's dragon to force them to sack it, and they cannot lineage release in response, which is just silly.
Yeah, that is horrifically unfair.
It's horrifically unfair, but the dragon players probably need something to keep themselves in check. So this is a cool list. It's a little tempting to try to pick this up and give it a shot.
Yeah, I think these are some neat evolutions for
Yeah.
the Crux decks that we are all familiar with.
I think so. Yeah, I think there's quite some potential here. So I would be interested in seeing this explored a bit further.
I wonder if the lack of Ascension, the lack of the Prismatic Edge, if that is tied to expectations about the format.
Perhaps.
Because new to the format, if it's going to be mostly fire decks,
Yeah.
you don't get a lot of advantage from playing Prismatic Ascension there.
It's true. If you don't really know the distribution of what you're going to go into, maybe that devalues it a bit.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And also, like, the real benefit, if you are expecting a field mostly of fire decks, what you're getting out of that card is 3 damage.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And maybe sometimes you can turn it into an attack, but most of the time, what you're getting out of it is 3 damage.
Yeah.
And at that point, Flared Iridescence is much, much better at that job.
You're getting a lot more damage. It costs more, but you're getting a lot more damage out of it in the long term.
Yeah.
So I think that could be some great potential there. And it's really not hard to meet this condition to be able to play it. So pretty neat. So yeah, congrats to Neoniclax. Cool evolution.
Yeah, I think Merlin is doing some neat stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, there are a lot of interesting things to do with Merlin. There is a lot left to cook in this format.
There
I think.
is. I'm really curious.
Yeah, I'm really curious too. But as far as the previous incarnation of Merlin goes, this seems like a good direction for it.
I agree. In 7th place, we have Abby on Wind Seiryu.
Yeah, Wind Seiryu absolutely terrorizing this tournament, as
Yep.
indicated by the number of Seiryus in the top 8.
You'll know that this is the first Seiryu we're talking about. It will not be the last.
Yep.
So definitely taking advantage of the new tools here. We have quite a few new toys in the material deck. The Lost Providence, of course. The Thurible is back because, boy, that thing is really strong. The Ducal Seal is a much more powerful Terrafring style effect, which you are going to have access to pretty quickly, considering you probably are going to turbo pretty hard in most matchups.
Yeah, I think Ducal Seal is actually really important to call out. We didn't pay much attention. We didn't specifically call this out in the sort of new cards, breakout cards, because it doesn't really serve much of a different purpose from Terrafring.
Yeah.
But a lot of these decks are definitely going to spend all of their early materializes getting to level 3.
Absolutely.
And once you're level 3, if you want a Terrafring, you might as well have Ducal Seal instead.
Yeah, it's just it's Terrafring but better. It's Terrafring Plus. The main deck is where things get really interesting. We are seeing some Rictus Tidings in here. Notably, your Beseech Face Zone costs 6, and you have a lot of 2 costs, so I think there's a little potential here to draw 2. That's pretty high. Some Annul spells, which can be useful in various matchups. I imagine playing this in the mirror could be pretty useful. I think being able to negate an Arcane Blast from your opponent would be pretty dang good. A 1-of Bestial Frenzy.
Wild.
A little spicy. Top Sea Decrees, of course.
Yeah, Topsy Decree is definitely an important card in this new meta, and every deck is running them.
Yep. 3 Royal Oathguard.
So this is, I think, one of the biggest innovations for this deck.
Yes.
I don't know how good it is still. It seems decently good. I think the most time to shine that it got on stream was when it was taken by his opponent Tristan.
Yeah.
But a 3/4 intercept Vigor is kind of some bonkers stuff.
It's kind of crazy. This thing beats down and it keeps your butt from exploding to big attacks. It's really nice.
I mean, I have to wonder, I'm not seeing any Asins in this list. So we're definitely kind of backing away from the usual, like, windmill Asin reclaim kind of shenanigans.
Yeah, no windmills in this list is kind of crazy. Also, no brisk wind trotters is also very crazy. Like the ally package here is what ally package?
Yeah, this deck feels very, very all in a way that we haven't seen that often from Seru lists.
Yeah. I'm not used to it. Most decks either they just embrace the turbo, but with the normal like card draw package just in case, or they go like deeper on the allies. This I feel has gone like in the opposite direction.
Yeah, except for the Royal Oathguard, which is like,
okay,
now that I am level 3, observe the mighty units I am playing.
Yes, behold. So that's really, really interesting. In the board, we have some even spicier things. We have Orb of Sealing, because of course, you know, you're going to run into some CLs and maybe some Rise, and you got to be careful. Nullifying Lantern, obviously very, very good against the many fire decks and also the Carp Song decks. Blanche is great. Yanshao is...
this man did not want to play against Wake Up.
Absolutely.
This man did not want Wake Up to play the game.
He was prepared. Try Castles of Lucenia in the board.
Oh god, I love this guy.
It's so mean. It's so mean. And then your Dream Fairies and an extra Gazelle to supplement the one in the main board. Did not expect this version of this deck, but it did well. So congrats to Abby. Very cool. In 6th place, we have the man, the myth, the goat. It's Henki.
On Shadow Strike.
I
never would have imagined Henki playing Shadow Strike.
I know, right?
And it's a mostly typical version of Shadow Strike.
A little bit. His Divine Relic is the Looking Glass. Because he's running 3 Unmake Dualities.
Yeah. After all, Turbocharge is a great card.
Which is pretty good. That and the Topsy's also supplementing that, so it's clearly doing some work for him. I also really love the one of Spirel as the top end. I think this is kind of one of the decks that can really take advantage of Spirel. Yeah,
this is a thing we've actually seen from a bunch of different Tristan players kind of near the end of the previous meta.
Yeah.
So this is by no means unexplored territory.
Yeah.
Which is, again, wild for Henki the Goat. Right? Most of the time we see him coming up and showing up in the top 8 or like the top 24 with some completely random looking allies brew that no one has ever thought of before and no one will ever see success with again. So it's amazing to see Henki the Goat show up with what is very close to a net deck, just like a bog standard Tristan Shadow Strike deck, admittedly with some new cards because of Phantom Monarchs.
Yeah.
But I think this is just what Tristan looks like going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like even though this event, and I think also in Akihabara, he was playing sort of more traditional archetypes, he kind of still has his own flavor that he brings to it. And you can see that here with the Unmake Dualities. And I think you could argue the Topsies. I think a lot of people also caught on that the Topsies are good, but still, it's good to see them here. But yeah, it really just goes to show that his range is quite vast.
Yeah.
You know? So very cool. The sideboard, about what you'd expect. Orb of Sealing, 4 Calming Breezes. Yeah, it might be good.
I think actually Tristan is the right deck to have Calming Breeze.
Yeah.
Because Tristan does take advantage of that little bit of float.
Yeah, she does.
Tristan really wants to not have to worry about the early game.
You can go so plus with this thing, even if you don't play it to mitigate damage, I think. That'd be pretty good. Some more Fumes, Tempest Downfalls, because Wake Up is scary.
Yep.
Abnegations.
Yeah, this is wild.
Yeah. And the 1 Penumbra Waltz.
Sure.
The old Tristan standby. So that's pretty cool. So congrats, Henki. Really cool. Will you stick with this deck? Will you try something new at the next event? Who knows? I look forward to being surprised. In 5th place, we have True Sight Fugitive, which I really hope I'm pronouncing correctly. I hope it's a hard G. Fire Luxem Xander. You can't keep a good cockroach deck down. In spite of that, this deck is terrifying. I make fun of it because I have to do that to mask my fear whenever I see this deck.
You know, whatever you need to do to cope, that's all right.
I have to do a lot. Yeah. So we've been talking about a make duality quite a bit, and this is also a deck that's to a certain extent taking advantage of it because you have so the draw package actually just overall in this deck is kind of crazy. So you have the Looking Glass with one unmake duality. You have a backup charger with one turbocharge. You have the usual staples that you are familiar with in Fire Luxem. Your exploit vulnerabilities, your thieving cuts, your scries, the creative shocks, the gleaming cuts. And then you have 4 copies of Return to the Archive, which is a card that I think is a bit overshadowed by Unmake Duality, but is no less powerful. This does a very similar thing. You can sacrifice a Regalia to recover to a draw card and has floating memory.
It's kind of like Draw 2.
It's kind of like Draw 2. And this deck has a Mercblade in it. So
that's what that's for.
Spend a prep to draw 2 to go plus. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good, actually.
I think that's pretty good. So
especially for a champion that will always have that prep counter.
Yeah, I think so.
Where else are you going to use it? You can maybe prep a Thieving Cut, but you will always have that extra prep counter if you want it.
Oh, I'm getting the temptation again. The temptation to play Luxem.
I'm
not Bob. I can't do it. I don't know.
You don't need to be Bob. You just have to believe.
You're right. Okay. Well, maybe I'll consult my resident Luxem player for some updated tips. This is cool to see. It again. I always have a certain amount of dread when I play against Luxem, but I'm always happy to see Luxem represented as one of the closer to the control end of the spectrum. I do like seeing that type of deck still exists and can exist.
So I would like to propose the Fire Luxem Index of format health.
Oh, okay. Do tell.
You need to have exactly the right number of Fire Luxems, otherwise the format is not okay.
You're right.
When we had Ryle the Abyss, suddenly there was Luxem Xander in a lot of different places.
And that was too much.
That was too much. But if you end up with a format that's too aggressive, then there's no Luxem Xander at all, and that's not okay.
You cannot have 0 Luxem Xander, but you also cannot have 37 Luxem Xander.
Correct.
So anywhere between there is healthier.
Yeah. So Luxem Xander, the Canary, and the Coal Mine.
Yes, we're going to narrow this number down, and we'll give you an exact estimate in a future episode. In 4th place, Duo on everyone's favorite chicken restaurant, KFC.
Fire Aggro Suzaku.
Oh, baby. This deck has some very cheeky one-ofs. It's got a one of Crystallized Destiny, a one of Fluffy Shopkeep, a one of Resolute Stand, a one of Flame Wreath Call, a one of Smokeout. It's all over the place. And I imagine that's because Duo really is leaning into the one-ofs in the sideboard, so he can basically pick and choose his ratios based on the matchup, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, this deck is doing a couple of really innovative things, but for the most part, we're not seeing anything new here. There's nothing really that Phantom Monarchs enabled that they couldn't have done kind of on their own in the previous meta if they were, that creative.
Like, the Enfeebling Orb is a nice addition because it protects his offensive lines.
Yeah, the Infernal Vessel in the board, also a nice addition.
Yep, really good for those decks that are trying to out-heal damage. Coiled Fatestone is a good call out here. I believe we saw this on Stream Stop and Innervate Agility.
Yeah, we did. That was wild.
Yeah, when this flips, it prevents your opponents from recovering, and it also beats down pretty well. So a little slow, but hey, he made it work.
Yeah, and like I just want to reiterate, most of what this deck is doing is stuff that it could have been doing in DTR.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that it's doing differently is a very targeted call out.
Yeah.
Because most of the rest of this deck is just standard aggro.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really cool to see that this deck be adapted to sort of fit kind of this early meta game. I thought there were some really interesting changes and some interesting adjustments here.
Yeah, I honestly like just love to see people trying new stuff.
Yeah.
And this is definitely it's got that vibe of like, okay, people are trying new stuff, so I'm going to take stuff that works and apply a little bit of new stuff to it.
Yeah.
And catch people by surprise.
It worked really well. So congrats to Duo.
Heck yeah.
Definitely love to see this. Hope this continues to develop in the future. In third place, we have the top-ranking fire deck of the event. We have Egg on our one Lorraine deck.
Our one Lorraine deck in the entire day 2.
The Sword Saint's Vow and Spirit Ruler.
Yep.
Looking Glass being used to great effect here with many, many, many swords.
Yeah.
So many swords. Literally 6 swords. It's a lot of swords.
You don't typically see that many swords without running in Soul.
Yeah.
And this deck is not running in Soul. It is running Dispersion, right? Because it is the Spirit Ruler version of the deck.
Yep, it's running Dispersion, and it definitely secured some kills. I think I saw a fast activated Dispersion just blow someone out, and it was crazy.
Yeah, this is why I like the Spirit Ruler of the deck version more than the Crux Knight version of the deck.
Yeah.
Is Dispersion is such a powerful tool to just kind of come out of nowhere.
It is.
And you still have all of the same Lorraine power level. You're just getting that kill at fast speed when your opponent isn't expecting it, rather than just coming in through champion damage over and over and over.
Spirit Ruler is also flexible. You can also bring out like your Sword Saint's Vow, for example, and just a ton of durability counters on it, which means it's going to hit like a truck. And yeah, you have, your Cheshire Cats with your big boosts of damage from your Palvor Sword and your Inert Sword. And your Sword of Shadows.
If you must.
Cat can swing for 6.
Cat can swing for 6.
That's insane. Honed by Fires, Rending Flames, Flame Sweeps, all the good stuff. Spirit's Blessings.
Also. Yeah, that's kind of new too.
Yeah.
This is not a card that we have seen much of outside of this kind of very specific combo watermelon deck that we had for a while.
Yeah.
People bringing out the Lance and then Spirit's Blessings.
The Chess Club special. Yeah. No, I really like that this card is making a comeback, because like this was literally a card I played with the Lorraine starter deck back in the day.
Sure.
And now people are finding more uses for this card. I think it's great. So it's really cool to see here. Sideboard, Varuk. You got to be careful. You think you're going to be safe against the big explodey fire deck? You're not. You can't prevent any of that stuff when the castle hits the table.
Man, Varuk is here, but not in Merlin.
No,
right.
Sadly not.
Honestly, I respect this. People playing a lot of Crystallized Destiny.
Yeah.
People playing a lot of Resolute Stand.
Yeah.
And Varuk is perfect for breaking through those walls.
Yeah. Also, like, what if Calming Breeze is actually a good card?
Might as well have Varuk.
Just in case.
Sure.
We also have, of course, the 4 Topsy Decrees in the board, which is you're going to bring those in no matter what. 3 Varuk and Acolytes, too. If you just really want to hate the Carp Song deck into oblivion, like, you got it. You got it here. And all spells, Crystallized Destinies, and a couple True Sight Enablers, which is pretty good. Fantastic.
Yeah, third place, great performance, by the way.
Great.
I highly recommend going back and watching his stream games.
Oh my god, those games. He blew up the horse deck.
Oh yeah, he blew up a lot of people.
Took the horses out back and just rendered them.
They deserved it.
I didn't know they could do that, but yeah, it was deserved. Anyway, we don't condone animal violence on this channel.
Unless it's pointed at dragons.
Speaking of which, in second place, my personal hero for this event, Raylem, on Win Seiryu. Raylem, the Ascent Akihabara winner, almost back-to-back 1-2 Ascents.
This is still 4 spirits in a row.
Yeah, which, listen, it's pretty good.
Yeah, right? That is not bad.
Raylem is a beast. He's been kicking butt since the Taipei era, the first Taipei, not the most recent Taipei.
Yeah.
So, like, clearly, this man is a pedigree. And his deck is... It is and it is not the standard build.
Okay.
The ratios are interesting. First of all, we'll talk about the material deck because this man actually deigned to bring a Safeguard Amulet.
Ooh.
Which, smart. He branded Ducal Seal. He's running Lost Providence, of course, because Lost Providence is very good. Sensors, Thuribles. This man was ready to deal with graveyards no matter what. And the main deck, you see a lot of the cards that you would expect to see in a Dragon deck, but the ratios are a bit narrowed to bring in extra cards.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's sort of more spread out
Yeah.
to allow a little bit more variety in the deck, a few more options in different places.
Like 3 Forest Cakes, for example, most people I think would just be jamming 4 of those at all time because they draw you a card, right? And then some other stuff like he's running a couple Beseech the Winds, he's running like 2 Innervate Agilities, he's running 2 Long Tails, which admittedly not a lot of people are running Long Tails, but that just sort of shows that he's able to sort of squeeze more of these in. Only 2 Hawks. He's bringing in 2 Incapacitates as a result, which is really good because it's a very important thing to be able to negate stuff, like being able to incapacitate an ensnaring fumes. Pretty important.
Big deal, yeah.
He's also fitting in the Winds of Destiny for the turbo if he really wants to do that. So he's got a lot of flexibility with this list, and I really like it. I really like seeing this. His sideboard is also very interesting because this man definitely came prepared to party. Orb of Sealing to deal with Ciels and Rise. Spellword Scepters to deal with anyone trying to negate his stuff, probably mainly the Assassin, so that he can stick either a Command or an Arcane Blast or a Regal Inquisition, which he's got 3 in the side, and those definitely came in because, you really need those in some of the really problematic matchups to protect your strategy. Or to basically pull the out of their hands.
Right.
2 Royal Oath Guards. Again, this card is a house.
Yeah, what a beater.
Yeah, 2 Veiling Breeze in case you need to mitigate with defenses, and 2 of my favorite card, Sunblessed Gazelle.
Yep. We saw Abby running 1-1. Raylem just has both of them in the board.
Yep. This card did a lot of work for him in the finals. It definitely kept him alive. And it was... pretty wild finals, let me tell you.
Yeah, the finals were good.
Yeah. So big ups to Raylem. I think this man deigned to bring Dragon back into my heart. And I would very strongly consider playing Dragon again, if not for our number 1 in this event, Mike0615 on Wind Shadow Strike Tristan.
Yeah, and this is the natural predator of Dragon.
It is. This is a matchup that can tear dragons apart if they don't know how to deal with it. Raylem knows how to deal with it, and he actually took a game off of Mike in the finals, and that was wild to see. But once Mike adapted, it was really, really uphill.
Yeah.
So this list. So we didn't mention it when we talked about Henke's, but Henke's deck was not running Shadow Reaver. It was just running sort of the classic Tristan lineage. This deck is running Shadow Reaver, and it was put to great effect in the matches that he played. So being able to rip 4 out of your opponent's deck and being able to play them for whatever purpose you need is very, very good. Very, very good in the mirror. Very, very good against Dragon.
Almost any deck that is running Dungeon Guide is a deck that you want to Shadow Reave.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because they'll have cards that are important in the late game, and they'll have Dungeon Guides, so you can just immediately go back up.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Also, Mike is running 2 Innervate Agilities in the main and 1 Innervate Agility in the board, and if you Innervate from Shadow Dancer back down to Shadow Reaver and you Dungeon Guide up again, you get to draw 2 more cards.
Yeah.
So that's just a constant way to chain just drawing and filtering through your deck.
That is a lot of value.
It's really good. So this is a 61 card deck, and he's running a few 1-ofs here. He is running a 1 of Heavenly Guide, which is pretty good against those turbo decks. He's running a 1 of Turbocharge because he is running a backup charger, and what else are you going to do with that power cell? And he's running a 1 of Umbra Sight.
Fascinating include.
Yeah. A nice little way to cycle through your deck. Also, with the 2 copies of Abnegation, it means your Abnegations are healing for 10, which is pretty strong.
Yeah, this is also a kind of an unexpected include. 2 copies of Abnegation in this Shadow Strike Tristan deck.
Yeah, this is a Tristan deck that kind of leans more towards playing a controlling strategy. It kind of just like sits back and just sort of chills out and sort of draws all the cards that it needs. If it has to.
It's a deck that gives itself a lot of longevity. Like, Tristan already had a lot of defensive tools.
Yeah.
And this one's sitting on 3 Calming Breeze, in addition to the Veiling Breeze, in addition to the Ensnaring Vapors, in addition to are there Resolute Stands in the main? I don't see Resolute Stands.
There are not. There are 3 Calming Breezes.
Uh-huh.
So that could be a thing.
But, like, all of these defensive tools and then Abnegation at the top end.
Yeah. 2 Crystallized Destinies, too. And cast and protect, all this stuff. Yeah, all this defense does kind of come at a cost because you're only seeing 2 Mastermind schemes in the main list, and I know he was digging for those Mastermind schemes at least some amount of the time. So that's a little bit of a
That's always the trade-off, right? You've got to figure out how to fit all of the cards that you want to play in this deck.
It's true.
And he still didn't. He's still running 61.
He's still, I mean, he barely fit them in, so...
Roll eyes. I mean, I can't roll my eyes too hard. This person literally placed first in Ascent Manila.
He did.
So, like, there's a lot going on here that is correct, clearly.
This man...
I will just have my opinions quietly.
Please go back and watch the finals, because literally I didn't think a man could fill his entire playmat with stuff. But Mike found a way. He innovated twice, and he had, like, 6 shadows out, and I think, like... 4 of them were CPRs, and like the other 2 were like hand commissioned by famous artists. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm watching. But
I think he has to run Reaver into Dancer in order to be able to show off all of his custom ominous shadows.
Exactly. It's dual purpose. It helps you go plus on cards and also plus on your swag.
You know what? It actually kind of hurts to see someone who is so invested in max rarity his deck do this well. It's like, I don't want those to be the same people.
I understand. I have been trying. Clearly it's a lot more work.
Oh yeah, you've got a ways to go on both realms.
I do. I lack the funds nor the patience.
I believe in your journey though.
Thank you. One day, catch me this regionals. Spoilers. Maybe? I don't know. This could all be a psyop for all you know.
Yeah, right?
Anyway, congrats to Mike. It's pretty cool to see this version of the deck. I think, like, Tristan's always been kind of hovering around the forefront. I think it went out of style for a while this past season. So seeing it come back with a vengeance is cool. Mm-hmm. Terrifying, but cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that will wrap it up for the top 8 coverage of Ascent Manila.
So what do you think are the takeaways from this? What should we learn having seen this event?
Well, there's one thing I've learned is that there are definitely some powerhouses of new cards that we can definitely use. I think that right now there are a lot of decks that are established that can do well and have done well. I think that in terms of new decks, there's still a little bit of time to cook for that. Mm-hmm. But things aren't so overwhelmingly aggressive that I feel like you can kind of pick up any of the decks that you've been working on, practicing with up until now, slot in some new cards, make a few tweaks, and do pretty well with it.
I would say the thing that stood out to me from this event was that a lot of people were worried that CL was going to take the whole thing.
Yes.
There was a lot of dooming and glooming.
There was.
And fear over Fu Awakening.
Yep.
Among other new tricks that CL has.
Yep.
And that has not been realized.
It did not come to pass.
Between the ubiquity of Crystallized Destiny
Yep.
and the power of the new Topsy Decree,
Yep.
I think CL is not as well positioned as a lot of the fearmongers might have made it out to be.
I definitely agree with that.
And I think this puts the Dragon and Shadow Strike in a very good position.
Yeah.
That's what we saw at the top tables here.
Yep.
I think that's for a reason. Mm-hmm. And those would be the decks I would go to if you're like, oh, what of these 15 different decks that all seem like they're pretty good? Which of these am I going to play? I think go to Shadow Strike or go to Seiryu.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting because I think one of those decks is significantly easier to learn than the other.
Sure.
However, the other deck is significantly more well-positioned against that other deck.
Right?
So
it's an interesting choice for sure.
Yeah.
By all means, let familiarity be your guide.
Yes.
Once again, being good at the deck you're playing is more important than trying to find an extra couple of percentage points. But both Shadow Strike and Seiryu seem like they're very well positioned against almost everything in the field with the new techniques that we have available.
Definitely. Now, if neither of those decks vibe with you, there are still other options you can fall back on, but you better be prepared for that graveyard mitigation because it's going to hit you pretty hard.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of tools to hit people's graveyard, which probably another reason we haven't been seeing much of Alice.
Yeah, Alice has a number of issues. People wrecking her graveyard is definitely part of it. I think that will take some time to really develop if it does develop. I'd be curious to see what it looks like when it does. I also think that the traditional float-heavy water decks are going to have a bit of trouble.
Yeah, and we haven't been seeing any of those decks either.
Yeah.
Like, if you take a look at where Genbu placed anywhere in this field, the top performing Genbu was 185th.
Oof.
That's not great.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah, there's just a lot of ways to mess with the graveyard, and not a lot of ways to protect it.
Yeah, I think, if anything, finding more card-neutral plays that your deck can take advantage of that aren't float-specific is going to be much more important, because people are going to be eager to mess with your graveyards.
Yeah, and we are seeing Unmake Duality. We're seeing more turbocharge. We're seeing people put in the new Spire, Merlin's backup charger.
Oh yeah, Prism Spire Scepter. Yep.
And that is a backup charger.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see in the future 2-3 backup chargers in a given deck, just because that is such a good way to get consistent value that your opponent can't mess with.
Yeah, absolutely. So whatever you decide to play, be it one of the top win contenders or otherwise, make sure you find an engine that doesn't blow up when your opponent decides you flip your graveyard face down.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly correct.
Yep. So I believe that will take us to the end phase. And like any responsible player in the end phase, I am going to do the reasonable thing and pass opportunity.
You got nothing to say?
I feel like we talked a lot last time about the holiday stream that I find myself kind of, pause, content. Sort of waiting to see what happens.
Well, in that case, I'm going to wrest control of this podcast. You have spoken for too long, sir. I am taking control.
Oh my God.
I want to talk about ultimates.
Oh yeah.
So
ultimates.
We have seen Diao Chan's ultimate. We have seen a Terra card focused around flowers.
Yes.
Who is playing this card, I ask you? And the answer, not many people.
I agree.
I think this card is going to go ham in Pantheon.
100%.
I think we will never see this card in day 2 of any Ascent.
I fully agree with you. 7 costs for an advanced element card is a high bar to clear in an element that, as far as I can tell, probably doesn't generate that much influence that fast.
We have another card currently legal that I would argue is similar in theme and impact to Ultimates.
Do tell.
Which is the Labyrinth.
Oh yeah, the Labyrinth.
Have we seen this card in any day 2?
No. I have seen it top 8 one-store champ so far.
Okay.
Which is a different field compared to a regional or an Ascent. I certainly love resolving a Labyrinth myself in a locals, and that's a good time. Until they blow you up with something that doesn't get stopped by stealth or spell shroud.
I think this is another card that will go ham in a Pantheon deck and will never see tournament success.
All right, so now I must ask you, what are you cooking for Pantheon?
Alice, probably. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of neat things that you can do. And I think the one that I am most excited to do is go back to my roots and start playing Terra Sylvie.
Heck yeah, Terra Sylvie.
I don't know if it's going to be slimes. It might be. But I am so excited to use all of those powerful Terra cards that never saw play because there was never a deck to put them in. And also they were a little bit too slow for the format.
I have a feeling that the Terra Sylvie cards are going to go hard in Pantheon. Just because you'll have just that much more time to get them online. And it'll be pretty crazy.
Yeah. So I'm actually putting out my prediction for the Ultimates.
Okay.
I think all of the Ultimates are going to be of a similar power level.
Okay.
I think they are going to be strong in the late game, but are going to be a little bit too late game to see competitive success.
I agree.
I think that they are always going to be like a turn 5 or turn 6 powerhouse that just doesn't come down fast enough to turn the game in your favor if you're looking at one of these high caliber tournaments like an Ascent or a Nationals.
I'm gonna build on your prediction and say that there will be exactly one ultimate which is just undercosted enough to the point where everyone running that deck just runs it all the time, and people are going to be like, "Okay, could you not? Like, we're sick of seeing this card."
Yeah, one overpowered ultimate, maybe.
Yes, you can now quote us on these predictions so that you can tell us in the comments many months from now that we were wrong or right. We could be totally right about this.
I am excited for the future to
Yes.
prove that I was right.
I have heard through the grapevine that if Rye has an ultimate, which he almost certainly does, it will cost somewhere between 12 to 15.
That doesn't surprise me.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
All right.
Rye
Anyway,
likes to party.
I think that is enough out of me and enough out of us.
Our next episode will be most likely coverage of Ascent London, which is happening at the end of the month. I am curious to see how the Manila environment sort of evolves into a new event.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see some really cool evolutions from here, just because people are going to see what happened here,
Yep.
and they're going to take that going forward and figure out exactly how to sort of come in underneath what people are planning for.
Yes. Until that moment comes, we have many store times to prepare for, and this is probably the best reference point we have. So we shall see where things go from here. With all of that said, thank you for listening to the Corhazi Outlook. Tune in to our next episode when we talk about Ascent London. And until then, take care.
Take care.